Take a deep breath in and breath out. Another breath in and breath out. Namami dhanvantarim adidevam surasurairvandita padapadmam loke jararubhayamrutyunasham धातारमीशं विविधौषधीनाम् ॐ गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. All right. So today's topic is going to be about inflammation. Welcome, all of you, Jyoti, Sambasiva, Debanti, Vista. So inflammation is like a buzzword. Everybody wants to know about inflammation, right? And I'm going to make it super easy. We're not going to make it super complicated. Everybody is so confused. What is happening with inflammation? So much confusion is happening, but we will make it very simple. Earlier, I was talking to all of you, weather outside. It's cold, and that's why we're all, like this, is sitting inside. The same thing happens, global warming right now. I mean, the same weather that's happening in East Coast is the weather that we have right now. The global warming is changing how the entire environment is for us. The weather has changed. The same thing is happening internally for us. So the external global warming is similar to the internal chronic inflammation that we've been experiencing, right? So what are the similarities? I wanted to talk to you about the similarities that we experience when there is all of these all of these similarities between chronic inflammation and also global warming. Now, it's not allowing me to open my notes. One second, if I can just do this. And to open, excuse me. Okay. All right. Okay. So the concept of inner climate, right? Deha desha and outside desha. Deha is a desha also. So just like global warming is a threat to our planet, chronic inflammation is a threat within us, our microbiome. What is our microbiome? Our microbiome is our digestive fire, our Agni, and our channels, the channels where everything is flowing. All of that is changing if the global warming is happening inside our body as well. So that's what's been happening for us. And what really is inflammation? In a healthy body, what is inflammation? Inflammation is a response to any external injury that we have. If there is any external injury, then our body sends its fighter mode, its soldiers. Hi, Trini, if I can ask you to mute, maybe? Yeah, I'll mute you. So the external forces, external factors that are going to be making this army of our soldiers fight against it, right? So those are the white blood cells, the cytokines, the macrophages. These are all the things that come as soldiers and say, oh my God, there is a problem right now. And they fight against this external injury. So if it is happening once in a while, then that's not a problem. But if the soldiers are continuously at work, when that is happening, that is a problem. The continuous work is a problem. which means the body is in a continuous fighting mode because it is fighting all of these external sources that our body is not able to handle. It is considering it as a foreign thing and it is fighting against it. And this constant thing that is happening is what we're going to talk about today. Now, again, what are the signs and symptoms of inflammation? Ayurveda talks about inflammation can be seen in many, many multiple ways, right? It depends on what dosha is involved. If we have vata dosha involved, then we see it as pain. We see joint inflammation. We say there's pain in your joints, small joints, all of that. That's considered as pain. If there is heat that is expressed as burning in the body, or if it is seen as eczema, redness, burning, all of these is because of pitta involvement. Or if there is redness, also pitta involvement, swelling. When you see swelling, then that is a kapha involvement. So the same inflammation, the same soldiers, when they're fighting against a foreign body, can elicit different symptoms based upon that foreign body. And that foreign body is what we need to recognize. So thinking of an injury, right? When you have an injury, that's what happens. You see that there's pain as soon as there's an injury. You see that there's redness. There is some level of swelling that happens. And that's what happens externally when you have a wound or when you have an injury. That phenomenon, imagine that phenomenon happening inside our body, inside our channels, inside our siras and shrotasas is what we call in Ayurveda, continuously 24/7. Yeah? Now, when that is happening, then this is going to lead to many, many different kinds of symptoms that we experience. What are the symptoms usually that we experience? Is like full body inflammation that we notice. And we experience more of a gouty arthritis. This can be one thing, gouty arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, IBD, or it can be more of udavarta, which is, opposite flow of air that happens. Diabetes can happen. Irregular fever patterns can happen. Chronic fever can happen. Increase in the viscosity of blood can happen. Hemorrhoids. So these are all like the conditions that we see when there is inflammation. Again, it depends on the vulnerability of your organ, the vulnerability of your tissue. When there is a lot of toxins, and these toxins are being fought by a particular organ, whichever organ is involved in that fighting or whichever organ becomes more vulnerable will be eliciting these particular symptoms. And that's why we see different places. You see it in the intestines, you see it in the joints, you see it in the blood, you see it in the entire skin. It can be any different organ that can happen depending upon the fighting agent. Right? Any questions so far? I just wanted you all to sit with that. I want to make it very, very easy, but at the same time, I want to also help you understand until here so that we can go further from here. All good? Okay, good. Now, what are the symptoms that we typically experience? And when we spoke about the conditions, the symptoms are usually the circulation, elimination, and thermoregulation. The circulation of the body is going to be a problem if the viscosity changes in the blood, or if there is any accumulation in the channels, right? Elimination, we cannot be eliminating the bowels, urine, sweat, all of that in a proper manner. Or thermoregulation, how many of us notice that there is cold extremities? How many of us notice that there is cold in certain parts of our body? Certain parts of the body are more cooler than the other parts of the body. That thermoregulation is also going to be a problem. These are like the initial symptoms that we notice. Yeah. And that means each dosha is more of a substance that is responsible for all the activities that we do. We spoke about all of this. We spoke about, I know this is for the advantage of all of those who did not attend the earlier classes. These are the bio elements that have a certain space where they have to act. You know, vata is more in the lower part of the body. Pitta is in the middle part of the body. Kapha is in the upper part of the body. But here, what happens is they leave their area and they go to the other parts. And that's why you see this dysregulation happening. When this happens, the siras and the shrotasas, which are the channels that carry all of the bodily fluids, carry all of the nutrients, they are blocked. All the lymph nodes, the capillaries, the channels, all of these are blocked because of the doshas leaving from one area and they block these channels. When that is happening, it affects our digestive fire. The Agni is affected because your digestive fire is now busy taking care of all of this. Because our true immunity, we spoke about that in our first class. What is our immunity? Our immunity is because of our digestive fire. I know there are some questions. Let me look at these questions. Oops. Okay, I have to move this. What causes melasma? Okay, we'll talk about the particular conditions by Jinti. Now, let's talk about the phenomenon and then we'll talk about particular conditions later. Oh, okay. Then, could you repeat the location of the different doshas in the body again? Okay, so vata is present in your lower part of the body. Pitta is present in the middle part of the body. And kapha is present in the upper part of the body. Yeah. So when that is happening, your immunity is constantly fighting, your digestive fire is diminished, your Agni is affected somehow because the doshas are not in their own place, they're leaving their place, they affect your Agni. When that is happening, unwanted accumulation happens because your fire is not able to digest the food that you give. It is overworking right now. It's not able to digest the food that you're eating. Then unwanted accumulation. And when unwanted accumulation happens, then fermentation happens, right? Because it's there for a long time. Remember, your trash, if it's not taken out at the right time, then fermentation happens. What's the first and foremost thing that you notice when fermentation happens?
Yes.
Externally, just think about, you have your trash. It's not gone for some time. You're composting. It's fermenting. What is the first and foremost thing that you notice there?
Odor?
Smell that's there. Smell is there. And you also notice heat because that heat is the one that's transforming all of this. So this unwanted heat is accumulated in the body on this unwanted accumulated waste. Understood? Then this is how our climate is changing. Our internal climate is changing. If it is happening for a long, long, long time. It doesn't happen. If we do it only once, then that doesn't happen. If we don't follow the particular things only once or twice, then it doesn't happen. Or if we do things that combat or that balance, then also it will not happen. It is only happening because we are doing these things. I mean, when clients come into my clinic, I ask them, I know in the culture right now is you get food. Your lunch is always served at your office. I asked them, is it possible for you to cook? And they're like, no, 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 no. What are you talking about? It's very, I mean, yeah, we don't have time to do that. Right? So I'm not it's not about blaming at all. I'm not blaming anybody at all. It is definitely a necessity that has happened right now. But remember, if we're not taking care of ourselves, if we're not giving food that has life force, and if we're dependent on the food that somebody is giving and we don't even know the source of it, we don't even know the ingredients of it, then this unwanted accumulation is happening every single day. Then unwanted thermoregulation and unwanted global warming is happening inside our body. When that is happening, you're then distracted taking care of this deha. You're not doing your duty anyways. Instead, if you spend that time and making food and taking care of this, then you will not be distracted. That's my argument. But then it's not instant, right? I cannot show that instant way of change. And that's why I wanted to take you all through that process of what happens. Now, different organs are affected. If blood has lots of toxins, then because the headquarters of blood is liver, now liver is suddenly affected. We see stage 1 fatty liver and all of that. That happens because suddenly liver is now affected after all of this accumulation. So the body is in a perpetual fight and fight. Rest and repair is not happening because all of these free radicals that are released from this fermentation has to be released from the body somehow. The elimination has to happen. That rest and repair we're forgetting. So basic equilibrium and homeostasis is completely lost. Now, all three doshas are continuously involved. Now, anybody remembers what is the definition of health? We spoke about this in the first class. Whoever was in the first class, anybody remembers whatever comes to your mind? What is maintenance of health? What is a healthy individual? Who do you call, who are eligible to be called as a healthy individual? Nobody?
Everything is
Questions,
balanced.
say answers. What do you say, Devanti?
I think there was someone else also. I think Jyotsna also said something, but yeah, I think a system that's it's not like it's able to withstand some imbalances and be able to come back to a place of centeredness.
Correct, correct.
When all the Vata, Pitta, and Kapha are balanced.
Right, that's to an extent, yes.
Who has the good digestion and the body functioning?
Correct, very correct. Very good. You're in the right track. Samadoshaha. Bhamini was saying Vata, Pitta, Kapha has to be in balance. And Sama Agnischa. Sambasiva was saying digestive fire has to be normal. So dosha has to be in balanced stage. Agni has to be in balanced stage also. Samadoshaha, Samagnischa, Samadhatu. All our organs must be functioning the way they're supposed to be functioning continuously. Malakriyaha. Even excretion has to be happening the way it is supposed to. And he doesn't stop there. He says, Prasanna Atma Indriya Manaha, which is you have to have pleasant soul, mind, and senses as well. Balance of all of these is a healthy individual. Now, if we're in this perpetual state of inflammation or perpetual state of flight or fight, where we are fighting with our accumulations every day, how is it that we're going to reach health? How easy is it possible, right? So that's something that I wanted to tell you. So what are the signs of inflammation? Typical signs that you would normally see, that is usually written everywhere, is, you see dandruff. This is like the Purva Rupas. I want to tell you all of this because when you go to a Western doctor, Western way of looking at inflammation is if you have your inflammatory numbers up, you have to have your CRP up, your ESR must be high, your ANA must be positive, your rheumatoid factor must be positive. So all of these tests must be positive for you to be put in that category. By this time, the damage has done, no? How is it possible to reverse? It's very difficult. So instead of that, it is important for us to keep track of what is happening inside our own body. So these are the signs that I want you all to know, to look at. Starting from head to toe, we'll look at it. Dandruff, right here. And then redness in the eyes. Facial puffiness. When you wake up in the morning, then there is facial puffiness, or the facial puffiness stays throughout. That's also one other feature. And gingivitis, if you notice that there is bleeding in the gums constantly. Chronic phlegm that you're having to spit out all the time. Or acid reflux. That acid reflux is in the abdomen. Heaviness and sluggish digestion. Pain and puffiness in the tender joints. And skin rashes. Calcaneal pain. So these are all the things from the head to toe for us to look at. If we are noticing any of this, do not just brush it away. And I don't want you to hold on to it too. You see one rash somewhere and you're like, oh my God, I have inflammation. What do I do? This is just information for you to be aware of what is happening in the body, right? Dandruff, redness in the eyes, constant phlegm happening, gingivitis, acid reflux, skin rashes, and joint pains as well. Okay. And more global is going to be like body puffiness, more anemia happening, or it is chronic fevers that you're experiencing, chronic fevers, chronic fatigue, depression, allergies. These are more global. So what are the complications that we see? Obesity, diabetes, atherosclerosis, Alzheimer's, cancer, autoimmune. How many people do we see around us having all of these autoimmune conditions? And these are very, very prevalent now. Now that we have understood what is happening inside this body, we look at what are the positive factors that is leading to all of this warming inside our body. Processed foods. Those are considered as Garavisha in Ayurveda. Garavisha it's like this small amount of poison that you give for a long time that your body is constantly fighting against. That's called Garavisha. Regular Visha, if you eat, you die immediately. But this one is like a slow poison. Right? That processed food, processed sugar, refined flour, pishtanna. This is what called in Ayurveda, because it is all sticky. And that stickiness is going to be stored in your channels, and it's going to be stored as plaque. And that is when free radicals are produced from it. And additives like neuroplastics, phthalates, these are all the additives that are added to our unwanted foods. Heavy dinners. Who eats dinner past 8 and eats heavy dinner, because that's the time that we spend with family. We stuff our food for lunch because we're in lunch meeting, we're doing some meetings, and then we stuff our food. But then we want to sit down, relax, and enjoy our dinner. Of course, that is very, very good. But heavy dinners are going to cause a lot of accumulation as well. Stale and refrigerated food. Again, why is this a problem? I know this is also a biggest argument that I get in the clinic. I can make food and I will store it for 1 week. That's good enough, is what I get. But remember, when this happens, there is no life force in the food. When it is refrigerated, the life force of the food is reduced. When that is reduced, it is not possible to break it down easily, even though you heat it.
Yeah.
Yesterday, my mom went to a party. It seems that there were so many idlis that are left, and the host said, oh, no worries, I'll just freeze it and I will take it out and I'll steam it. It'll be as good as fresh. Absolutely. It will look like that. But do we know that it carries the same amount of life force in it to be able to break it down? Not necessary. Everything has its own expiration date. When you leave it at room temperature, it degrades much, much faster. But if you leave it in the refrigerator or you leave it in the freezer, it degrades in a slower manner, but it still degrades, which means that life force reduces. I worked in a pharmaceutical industry. I know in the pharmaceutical industry, when you have to put an expiration date for a medication, these are all the tests that we do. We look at how stable is it in a room temperature, how stable is it in refrigerated temperatures. And that is how you get all of these expiration dates on your medications. The same thing is not written on you don't know the expiration date of your own food. But remember, that is happening constantly. So that is also a biggest causative factors. Do I not eat refrigerated food? I absolutely do. I'm not saying that I don't. I'm just putting forth the causative factors. So we make a choice. If it is absolutely necessary, we have to for the lifestyle that we're leading. Right? And then abuse of medications also.
Excuse me,
Last.
Manju.
Yes.
Yeah. Like if we keep the food in the refrigerator for like I make it today and I use it for tomorrow, is it still supposed to be stale or like within 24 hours or how does it go? Like,
It's a very good question. The answer might not be palatable though. Because we call in Ayurveda something called Pariushita Ahara. Pariushita Ahara. Any food that you leave overnight is going to become Pariushita, which means it is going to be adding heat to it, which means it degrades. So Ayurveda says do not eat food that you have cooked the night before. Doesn't matter. Even though it's cold right now, you can cook something right now and you leave it at room temperature and you can eat it in the morning. Even then, it is called Paryushita Ahara, and that is known to cause inflammation. However, the food that you make in the morning can be eaten for your dinner because it did not go overnight and it does not become Paryushita. Again, that is some phenomenon that happens because universe is also, whatever is happening externally is influencing the food that we make. So, an ideal answer for your question, Bhamini, is no. What would I suggest? I would suggest that you meal prep. You do a meal prep and you use Instapot if you have to and cook it in the morning. That is going to have a proper life force. Life force is necessary for our cells to function. The cellular function, the mitochondria, is storing all of the energy that it gets from breaking down of the food. The enzymes are breaking down food. They will be able to recognize food only if it has proper life force. If it does not have proper life force, the same masoor dal you've made is not going to be recognizable few hours or 24 hours later. It's not going to be recognizable as much. The code has changed. And because the code has changed, it is not possible for it to break it down immediately. Does that answer your question? I know.
yes, thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Yes. And then abuse of medication. So my son went to play baseball in Reno. It's freezing cold. And in the freezing cold, he played there. And he doesn't like cold at all. He comes home with a splitting headache. He said 10 on 10 headache. I still chose not to give I don't have Tylenol in the house at all. I've been a pharmacist, but I don't have. But giving that would only suppress whatever is happening. Of course, he will be comfortable at that time. And all night, all I did was I gave him steam. I made sure because there is cold and dehydration that happened because of his game. So all I did was I made sure that he was steaming. I made sure that he was eating warm food. I said warm shower. I did a full body abhyanga. So this is going to be combating. Whatever the route that I took is a longer route. It's not a popping a pill. But Even today he said it is 3 out of 10. Last night he came home, right? So tomorrow, at least I am allowing for the toxins to go out of the body instead of suppressing it. Had I suppressed I'm not saying that, this is something that you have to do all the time, but be cautious in how we pop the pills whenever there's pain or whenever there is anything, because popping pills is also storing all of those unwanted things inside our body. That is also another causative factor that we have to remember. And excessive caffeine and alcohol. That is also, so you wake up early in the morning, take alcohol, and that's what you consume. If that, or not alcohol, coffee. That's the biggest thing, right? Now, coffee with ghee or coffee with coconut oil has become biggest trend right now. But remember, your channels are fresh and they're taking this hot coffee. It is acidic. Remember that. And if it is acidic, then it is going to go and it is going to be scraping your channels. This scraping of your channels is also leading to inflammation. So excessive coffee or alcohol intake, excessive eating, eating every hour. That's the most important, for diabetes patients. Doctors say this, endocrinologists always say, eat less, but eat frequent meals, is what they say. In Ayurveda, this is known as the Annavaha Shrotas Dushti, which means if you eat food without the previous food being digested, then your digestive fire will go start digesting the new food and will leave the old food like that. And that old food will start fermenting. That is why Ayurveda talks about only 2 meals a day. You eat a very, very small, cup of milk or very small breakfast in the morning, a larger meal for lunch, and then small dinner. If you maintain this, then you would have given time for your body to process that unwanted food. So you are not increasing that unwanted food being stored in different channels of your body. So that's also another problem. And normalizing constipation. I've had clients who said, I go once in every 7 days. And they thought that it's normal. They never thought that it was a problem at all. They said that genuinely, they said, this is my normal. There's nothing that I can do about it. That's how they've lived all their life. But now, after experiencing how it feels when you actually poop every day, they're like, oh my God, this is how it feels. So normalizing constipation is also another problem for increasing inflammation. And eating on the go. We spoke about that all the time. Eating on the go. Tan mana bhunjita. We want to make sure that we are eating with our body, soul, and mind. So if that is not happening, then that also is going to be a problem, right? Now, I'm going to talk about some modern day health trends, which is going to raise a lot of people's eyebrows. Anita, you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, is it okay to drink any hot liquid in the morning, like start off your day with warm water, some
So warm
herbs
water
or
is absolutely okay. You can do that. That's not a problem. Or what you can also do is, like a ragi porridge. Instead of the caffeine, you can include ragi porridge or millet porridge or warm milk,
Okay.
herbal tea. These are all okay. They don't have that caustic nature. Choose some things that don't have caustic nature.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So, what are the modern day health trends? The biggest thing, I mean, at least 70% of my clients ask this. But what about my protein? But what about my protein? Excessive protein toxicity. I'm sorry, but I have to burst that bubble. Everybody is so worried about protein. Everybody is worried about that only one child. We have 7 childs in our body. Rasa, Rakta, Mamsa, Meda, Asti, Majja, and Shukradhatu. We're only looking at Mamsa Dhatu. We're only looking at, as if that's the only tissue that protects us. No, what is going to happen with your circulation? What about your bones? What about your bone marrow? What about your reproductive juices? No, I don't want a child. I don't need reproductive juices. No, that is responsible for your enthusiasm. That is responsible for how bubbly you are. The stronger your reproductive juices are, the stronger your immunity is. So it is not just the protein. And remember, it is very dry. Protein is dry and it is heavy. When you're including that heavy, dry thing into your diet, then your body is finding it very difficult to break it down. So I'm not against it at all, but instead of extracting protein, do a whole protein, no? The lentils, we have good quality lentils. Include lentils, include milk in your diet. If you're a meat eater, include meat in your diet, it's okay. Include meat soups in your diet, it's okay. But that is one biggest thing. And you can look at yourself. This is not how our ancestors lived. They never had protein shake in the morning. They were always going out and working in the fields. They did not say, oh my God, I worked in the field. I have to come back and take my protein shake. So that is one thing, one biggest thing that I wanted to tell you. And food trends like apple cider vinegar in the morning, eating flax seeds, both of them are very, very heating. Apple cider vinegar has become very, very popular. It is something that you have to use to scrape off your mucus. If you have excessive mucus layer, then it helps for an extent. It has to be used as a medication to an extent, but it cannot be used beyond once your mucosal layer, unnecessary mucosal layer is removed. If you use it beyond that, then it's going to be scraping your necessary mucosal layer. We need our myelin sheath. We need our mucosal layer to protect us from all the different enzymes that we're exposed to, all the different acids that we're exposed to. If we use apple cider vinegar every day, then we're scraping our own mucosal lining. Flax seeds. This also has become a very, very big trend. This is known to be a causative factor. If you use it, it's known to be a causative factor for kushta, which is skin condition. I don't know why it is asking me. Baijanti's whiteboard is being shared somehow. I don't know. Is that something that you're seeing or no?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have no idea how to stop it. Okay, I stopped it now. All right. So adding chocolate powders to milk is okay. Yeah, I mean, to an extent, it's okay. And make sure that it does not have any salt in it. If it has salt to it, then salt and milk is a wrong combination. It's an incompatible food combination. So you want to make sure you look at the ingredients.
And many of them have olive oil in the morning. That's also
Yeah.
something.
So olive oil also to an extent is okay. You're drinking it. I mean, instead of olive oil, Ayurveda has recommended ghee. You take like 1 teaspoon of ghee in the morning so that you are protecting your mucosal lining. Again, there is no one trend that fits everybody. If olive oil is consumed by someone who's already suffering from a metabolic condition, if there is obesity and if there is diabetes or if there is cholesterol and if they already have accumulation in the body, then that's not going to be helping. But on the contrary, if it's consumed by someone who has acidity and who has depletion and who has redness, then and their liver is taxed because of all of this pitta that is stored, then olive oil is going to be helpful. So understanding the qualities of what you're consuming and consuming it in the right way is very, very important. Okay.
Thank
Then
you.
another biggest one that's going to raise your brows, maybe not. I don't know if you've heard me before. Raw salads. That's also another thing that's a modern day health trend, that when you break it apart, our body is not able to break it apart. And you're using your own fuel, your own digestive fire's fuel, to cook it, break it, and assimilate it. Why not use your own kitchen fire, no? Have your ovens and kitchen, use it so that you can preserve your own digestive fire. I'm not against it. Enjoy it. Oh, man, if it's summer, you feel like eating crunchy, eat it for fun. Don't eat it for health. Then low fat and severe diet restraint also is going to cause inflammation. Very, very important for us to know. Because we are then suddenly our mucosal lining is not protected by proper fat. It's like it's like standing in cold without clothes on. You are now exposed. Your channels are all exposed. Then there is a lot of depletion that's happening. That level of inflammation is happening. Then redness, acidity, depletion, all of that will happen at that time. Then you'll see IBS, Crohn's, that level of inflammation is noticed, is seen in that situation. So making sure that you add proper fats in the diet is important. Proper fats are your ghee, your milk, soaked nuts, not a lot of nuts, but soaked like 4 or 5 nuts, or avocado is also okay. So these are the good fats that you want to include in your diet. And don't restrain them. Then cold beverages, smoothies, and cold dairy. Do I even have to talk about it? I spoke about how accumulation is going to be happening when you're including cold food, when you're including cold beverages. It is going to be diluting your own digestive fire. It is going to be diluting your own enzymes. And of course, it is going to cause accumulation as well. And smoothies. This is one biggest causative factor that I see in my clinic all the time. This is incompatible food combination if you're including fruit and milk together. And it is cold and it is heavy. A perfect formula for inflammation. So staying away from it is very, very important. Then another one, excessive water intake. Sometimes some of my clients say, I drink 5 liters water every day. I'm so good. I'm so healthy because I drink 5 liters water every day. I have my bowel movement every day after I drink 2 liters of water. Excessive water. Our body is not a pipe. Water has to be processed before it goes out. It's not like you go in and it's like a pipe and it's going out. No. Every single droplet that comes in has to be processed by our digestive fire before it goes out. Imagine the amount of dilution that we're creating with this excessive water intake. Yeah. And medical marijuana and CBD usage is also another, it comes under Visha. It comes under Gara Visha that we spoke about. And fever is not treated well. When we see, I see this, they come after so many times that they get periodic fevers, like every week they get fevers. Tylenol, I take Tylenol and fever reduces. That's not the way. We have to always address why the fevers are happening so constantly and address the root cause of it. So these are the modern day health trends. Bhamini, you have a question?
Yeah.
If you're talking on mute.
Okay. I wanted to know about ice cream. Ice cream is
What do you
also
think?
called beverage. So are
What
we
do you
not,
think?
smoothies are not included. So how about ice cream? Are they also not
You
included?
answer my question. You answer your own question.
Once in a while, it's fine.
Like I said, I said that. I said you eat it for fun.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We are talking about this, whatever I'm talking about, we're talking about constant consumption, right?
Every day.
Yeah. But once in a while is what? It's not once in a while, cannot be once every 2 days. Once in a while is probably once every 2 weeks.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
And again, it all depends upon even that once in a while changes from person to person. If someone is experiencing excessive congestion, cold, then that once in every 2 weeks can also be a toxin for them. Right? That also has to be addressed. And in that case, you have to take something to balance it out. Right? Yes, Debanti.
I got two questions. One is, for smoothies, if you're only mixing fruits and vegetables together, is that better than the regular smoothies?
So then it becomes heavy if you're able to consume all of that fruits and vegetables. If you the same fruits, the same number of fruits and vegetables you would have added in the smoothies, if you're able to cut them all and eat them all, how heavy you would feel. That's the same thing that you're experiencing while adding them to the smoothie, right? So it's like a calorie dense, heavy food that you're eating at once, and your body will still be going through a problem to break it down. So while it's not an incompatible food combination, it is a heavy food combination.
My second question was, I think we all try to do the best that we can, right, and cook and things like that. But for example, if you're traveling, it's not possible to always control what.
Of course not at all.
That, right? So are there, and I know that Ayurveda is not a general thing, it's personalized to everybody, but
Correct.
are there general tips that you have
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, whenever I give problems, I have to give you solutions also. So I will give you solutions. Yes. I just wanted to, tell you what it is. I told you what inflammation is, and I'm telling you what the problems are that caused this situation, and then I have to give you a solution at the end. Yeah. Wait for part 2 for solutions. I want you to observe all of this, and then we'll have part 2 for solutions. Yeah. So then we spoke about ahara. What is the foods? What are the modern day trends of foods that are causing all of this? Then modern day vihara, activities that we're doing that is causing also inflammation. That is overproductivity. We thrive on that. We thrive when someone asks you something, you want to show that you are capable of doing things. That overproductivity is also increasing that level of neurotransmitters in the body and creating inflammation. Chronic stress. We're in that chronic, I'm talking about this, but I am looking at my own schedule that I have been living in the past 2 weeks. I have been doing all of this myself. I'm guilty also. I'm not saying that I'm a saint living in the Himalayas following all of this. I'm guilty also. But again, I have to look at how can I rest and digest and make sure that I combat it. It is also important for us to recognize that we're doing it. Because if we mindlessly do it continuously, then we're going to end up in a place that, why am I even doing all of this? So just for us to recognize it. So that is the answer for your question, Debanti, that I am not saying that I never eat an ice cream. I never enjoy cold food. I do, but then I look at the season, I look at the time, I look at what I'm doing later on. That's something that we have to know. Yeah. Excessive exercise is also another biggest causative factor. Irregular sleep patterns with work, that has also been a problem. With the work schedules, that has been a problem, but irregular sleep patterns, they're not allowing for the subtle digestion to happen, because the moon cycle that is present between 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., we're not utilizing that moon energy to digest that subtle free radicals that have been produced throughout the day. When we miss that window, then we're accumulating that only, no? It's not going out of the body. So that irregular sleeping patterns and sleeping late is a biggest causative factor as well. And excessive screen time. That also is increasing that heat, right? Increasing that heat is what is causing inflammation. And pollutants, exposure to a lot of pollutants, external pollutants, is also a visha. So those are the ahara and vihara. So because of all of these causative factors, body accumulates all of this excessive things and increases the viscosity of the blood, because our blood flows through the channels. Along with the blood, the food that is digested goes through that. The undigested food goes through that. The immune factors goes through that. Depending upon the level of undigested food, because we know that when you see that food is left like that, it has that that slimy nature that it gets. When you're composting, you must have noticed that it gets that slimy nature also. So that's the slimy nature. Slimy plus hot. This is the nature of this undigested food that is flowing all over our body. That increases the viscosity of the blood. And when the viscosity of the blood is changed, then the direction of flow also changes. The plasma flow direction, that's called udavarta happens. And when this is happening, the immune factors are suddenly coming. Oh, something is happening. Some foreign thing is flowing through my body. I want to combat it. And suddenly all of these immune factors come. So this creates blockage and activates our immune system and activates our inflammation. We're at 7:21 right now. I think it is best that we stop here. And I'm going to give you all the tips of how next week or next time. But really, if you know what the causative factors are, looking at the causative factors and removing the causative factors is the biggest thing that you're going to do. The easiest of all, I'm going to say, is if you're eating cold foods, let's say Bhamini was asking about ice cream. After that, eat, a pinch of dry ginger powder. Dry ginger powder is my favorite. It's called the Vishwa Bheshaja. That is something that you can do. And maintaining that predictability for a long time. Like 5 out of 7 days, we have structure. That 2 days is when all the chaos happens. So at least that 5 days, if you're able to maintain that structure, then it's okay. Your body will know that, okay, that's predictable. Then you'll be able to adapt to those blows that happens once in a while. But if the blows only are happening all the time, then your body will not be able to adapt to it. So maintaining that circadian rhythm to the maximum capacity possible, and then deviating from it only when it is absolutely necessary, is the easiest answer that I can say for inflammation. Otherwise, if you've noticed that inflammation has increased in the body, then following the 2 meals per day, which is what Ayurveda talks about, and now intermittent fasting is the biggest trend that has been happening. That is what we need to follow as well. When you do that, so these are the easiest answers that I'm going to tell you right now, and I'm going to ask you all to mull over it, all the information that was shared today, and then we'll talk about all the treatments or all the remedies later. Any questions?
I have a question. In terms of, right, like in Ayurveda, we talk about fermented foods not being great or food that has been kept overnight not being great. Different cultures around the world have, obviously, in some cultures, fermented foods are a very big source of medicine, right?
Absolutely.
And then there are other cultures where they don't have access to fresh food all the time. And so preserving meat, for example, and over a season is a really important way that those cultures survive. And they also have longevity. Is it just a question of something that their system has evolved to adapt to over time? Is that kind of the way Ayurveda sees things? Or would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Absolutely. Very, very good question, Debanti. Now, when they're eating that fermented food, that is acting as a probiotic for them. Their gut is taking that as a probiotic. But when you see all of this, you would not see that they would eat an entire meal that has been kept. Of course, in the morning, they would have eaten, like that kanji that is fermented overnight is also taken. And then fermented pickles, like the fermented meat that you said, are also eaten, but they're eaten only as a portion of a meal. It is not eaten as an entire meal, if I'm not wrong. And when that is happening, they're also combating it with something else that will take care of this fermentation. This fermentation, thus, will act as a probiotic, but will not act as an inflammation inducer. So the same kanji that I would tell some people who has a lot of accumulation, it would be amazing for them to consume it. But for a person who is exercising too much, who is overproductive, who has a lot of stress, who is depleted, if I give them this fermented food, it's going to be poison. So the lifestyles of those people who are consuming this could be living in a cold environment also, which means that is absolutely necessary for them to provide that amount of probiotic for them to be surviving in that cold environment. So culturally, it is important. Again, nothing is universal. You cannot be doing it universally. So important for us to know, for us to recognize. I know I spoke about earlier dandruff and so many other things that are happening in the body. Important for us to recognize the level of inflammation that we have. And absolutely all of us have inflammation. It is not that, we're all clear and clean. It's just that by the time we get the ESR and CRP, it's too late. But understanding the level of that and then incorporating it as necessary. And I do advocate for kanji. With some people, I do give them that recipe also to do the fermented kanji. Yeah.
I have a question, Manju. This is Shruti. So sometimes doctors recommend protein and like intake a lot of protein. How do you, balance it out? Um,
It's the doctors that are saying it. And unfortunately, they do say, for kids especially, they say, eat lots of cheese. That's going to be good for you. Eat lots of smoothies. That's going to be good for you. Drink lots of water. That's going to be good for you. And that's unfortunately how they are taught. So I have to give an explanation to my own client as to, okay, you've done this all the time, and you would not be ending up here if that was helping you. That's a blunt question I would ask also. And then I would ask them to try it out for 2 months. Come back and let me know what changes you've experienced. You don't have to take me for granted at all. And this knowledge has been given to us for 5,000 years now, and it has been working.
okay, thank you, Manju.
So, of course, protein is important, but that's not the only thing that you have to be worried about all the time. That's what I tell them. Protein is important. Include that with different ways. Include whole ways of protein. Ayurveda talks about whole. If you're doing protein powder, then that is pharmaceutical way of taking it, right? Because the same thing, I went to a panel discussion the other day. They were like, I will tell you what are all the things in Ayurveda that's going to be beneficial for cancer. And they started with curcumin. I said, curcumin is not Ayurveda because you're doing the same thing that an allopathic medication would do. You're extracting the active ingredient and you're forgetting the whole herb. It's important that you take it as a whole thing. Your body has the ability to break it down and assimilate it accordingly. That's what I would say.
But isn't sattu the same? Like it's like a protein powder?
Yeah. Sattu is not a protein powder. It's not an extract of protein, right? It's a whole flour.
Okay,
It is not an extract. You're not extracting it.
okay, makes sense. Thanks.
All right. So we're at 7:29. I hope it was informational for all of you, and I hope that you will incorporate. And that's the reason I do this, because there's only so much I can talk during my consultations. I hope that you would be able to incorporate this in your daily routine. And I'll see you next time. I don't know if December is a possibility. I'm traveling, but I will let you know if that's a possibility. If I don't see you, happy holidays, all of you. and see you all next time. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Manju. Happy holidays to you
Thank
and
you.
all of them.
Thank you, Manju. Happy holidays.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you for the session.
Bye.